start our discussion. Okay. Good evening, everyone. We are students from the Faculty Technology Kejuruteraan Mechanical at UTM. Today, we are conducting a group discussion for our engineering, ethics, and OSHE assignment, specifically for course called BMIU 4053 or BMKT 4253. My name is Chong Wei Xiang, and I will be the moderator for today's forum.
My name is Muhammad Alif bin Muhammad Fkaudin, and I am looking forward to discuss how safety regulation impacts the way business operate in Malaysia.
And I am Muhammad Asfar bin Jamruddin. We'll be discussing on the transition between different legislative act and how they protect both the employer and employees.
The purpose of our discussion today is to enhance our knowledge of the roles in OSHE legal requirements in business management. As engineering technologists, it is our responsibility to the public safety and environmentally conscious. To start us off, Alif, can you explain which laws currently govern the Malaysian workplace?
Certainly, in Malaysia, there are basically two primary acts that bond all organizations to ensure that workers are protected from workplace hazard. The first is known as the Factory and Machinery Act of 1967, or short FMA 1967, and the Occupational Safety and Health Act 1994, or best known as the OSHA 1994. These two are supported by various regulation, guideline, and code of practice.
That's right. It's important to note that this law don't just exist for compliance. They are designed to prevent hazard that employees are exposed to in their daily work environment. Today, we want to look at how this legal requirement integrate into the broader scope of business management.
Exactly. Our discussion will be divided into two main topics. First, the roles of these legal requirements in business, and second, the salient features of the OSHA 1994. Let's move into our first topic. Thank you, Alif and Aswan. Now, let's dive into our first main topic, the role of OSHE legal requirements in business management. Often, people see OSHE as just a set of rules to avoid fines, but in a business sense, it's much deeper. Ali, how does the legal framework actually provide a structure for accountability in a company?
That's a great starting point. From a management perspective, OSH has legal requirement provide a very clear framework for accountability. Under the OSHA 1994, the responsibility isn't just on a safety officer. It begins at the top. It forces directors and managers to be the safety leader for their teams. For example, the law requires a very well-written safety and health policy. This isn't just a piece of paper. It is clearly a management statement that safety is a core value, just like profit or quality.
I agree. And adding to that statement earlier, this requirement act as risk management tools. In businesses, we always talk about mitigating risk by following hierarchy, hazard identification, risk assessment, and risk control. A company is essentially performing a business audit of their physical operations. When we manage hazards legally, we are also managing the business continuity. If a major accident happens, production stops and the business could fail entirely. So the law actually guides us on how to keep the business running safely.
It's very practical view. What about the financial aspect? Some business owners argue that OSH is too expensive to implement. Ali, what is your take on the cost of safety versus the cost of accidents?
Actually, OSH is a cost-saving strategy in the long run. Think about the iceberg theory of accident costs. The visible costs are things like medical bills and fines, which under the 2022 amendment can now reach between 500,000 ringgit. But the hidden costs are much larger. Lost man hours, equipment damage, training a replacement worker, and increased insurance premium. By investing in legal compliance now, management is actually protecting the company's bottom line.
There's also the human resource role. When a business complies with OSH law, it improves employee morale. Workers who feel safe are more productive and loyal. High turnover is expensive for a company. If your workplace has a reputation for being dangerous, you won't be able to attract top talent, especially in engineering field. So OSH legal compliance is also a tool for talent acquisition and retention.
And finally, let's talk about corporate reputation and environmental, social, and governance. Nowadays, investors does not just look at the profit, they look at how a company treats its people as well. How does OSH fit into this?
It huge. In the current global market, OSH is a key part of the social pillar of ESG. Companies that have high OSH standard are more likely to get international contract and attract investors. It shows the company has good governance. If a company is caught violation OSH laws, the reputation damage can be permanent. Customer might boycott them and partner might pull out. So the role of OSH in business management today is really about brand protection and sustainability.
Excellent points. To summarize this section, we will see that OSH legal requirements are not just a burden, that provides a structure for leadership, a method for protecting profits, a way to keep employees happy, and a set for the company's reputation. Let's take a short pause here before we move on to the specific features of the Malaysian OSHA 1994. Nowadays, we will discuss the management side. Let's look at the law itself. The Occupational Safety and Health Act 1994 or Act 514 is the foundation of our safety culture. Alif, many people compare it to the older factories and machinery Act FMA 1967. What makes OSHA 1994 so different?
From what I know, the most significant difference is the philosophy of self-regulation, while the FMA 1967 was very prescriptive, meaning the government told you exactly what to do. OSHA 1994 shift the responsibility. It is based on the principle that those who create the risk, which is the employers, and those who work with the risk, employees, are the one best placed to manage them. This encourage to a more collaborative tripartite approach between the government, employers, and workers.
For my point, yes, exactly. Let's talk about the scope. Previously, FMA only covered sectors like manufacturing and construction, but OSHA 1994 originally covered almost all economic sectors except for the armed forces and those working on board ship. Interestingly, interestingly, with the 2022 amendment, the scope has been expanded even further to cover all places of work in Malaysia, including the public service and statutory authorities.
There's a huge expansion. What about the general duties of the parties involved? Section 50 is often cited as the most important part.
Section 6, Section 15 states that employee must employers must ensure, so far as it is practicable, the safety, health, and welfare of the employees. This include providing a safe plan and system of work, proper training, and a safe working environment for the workers. But the workers have duties too under Section 24. They must take they must take reasonable care for their own safety, cooperate with their employers, and wear the PPE provided by the employers.
For me, I just want to highlight a new features from the 2022 amendment, the right to remove oneself from imminent danger. Under Section 26A, if an employee has justifiable suspicion that there is an imminent danger, meaning a serious risk of death or injury, they can remove themselves if the employer fails to act after being informed. This is a major step forward for worker protection.
That has really empowers the workforce. What about the organizational structures the Acts requires, like the Safety and Health Committee?
Yes, that's a salient feature. Any workplace with 40 or more employees must establish a safety and health committee. It is an obligation. Every employee must do it. The main role is to keep the safety measure under review and provide a platform for management and workers to consult with each other. Also, for certain high-risk industry, the law requires the appointment of a safety and health officer, SHO, someone with a green book registration from Dodge, from DOSH. And this officer, they must be qualified for the job.
And we should mention the National Council for Occupational Safety and Health, NCOSH. This is a supreme body under the Ministry of Human Resource that determines the national direction for OSH's policies. They ensure that our laws stay updated as technologies and industries changes.
And finally, let's touch on the penalties. The law has become more stricter recently, hasn't it?
From what I have seen, definitely. Under the recent amendment by the government, the maximum fine for an employer failing in their general duties of providing safety and right for their workers, it has increased from 50,000 ringgit to 500,000 ringgit. Even directors and office bearer can now be held jointly and severely liable for offence committed by the company unless they can prove with an evidence that all they took are all reasonable precaution. This make this makes safety about room priority, not just a side issue.
Thank you to our two panels. It is clear that OSHA 1994, especially with its latest updates, creates a very robust system for ensuring every Malaysian worker returns home safely. This brings us to the end of our discussion. As we approach the end of our 30 minutes forum, let's wrap out our key findings. We have explored how OSH's legal requirements are not just a compliance burden, but a strategic management tool that ensures accountability, financial stability, and corporate reputation. We also examine the salient features of the OSHA 1994, noting its philosophy of self-regulation and its expanded scopes under the recent amendments.
Right. It is clear that the shift from the prescriptive FMA 1967 to the self-regulatory OSHA 1994 has placed the responsibility of safety exactly where it belongs. On those who create and work with the risk. For us, the future engineering, for us as future engineering technologies, understanding these duties is important for our professional ethics and public safety responsibility. And I am sure with this, if we follow it, um, if we follow it very obediently, it will certainly improve our country industry and economy.
Yes, I agree. Our discussion today has highlighted that a safe workplace is a productive one. By integrating OSHE compliance into daily operations, organization move from simply following the law to achieving OSHE excellence. This proactive approach is what will define the next generation of industrial leadership in Malaysia. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
That's all from us. Thank you for joining our forum discussion, and we see you next time. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chong.